Welcome folks. In this video we are going to look at question 1 from biology paper 2 for the year 2023. Now the question reads, figure 1 shows different specialized cells. So we have been given cells that are specialized in a specific role. Like for cell A, there should be a specific role that it plays in animals. Now if we go back to the definition of a cell, the cell can be defined as just the basic unit of life. So the life of a living organism is centered on a cell. And if you look at the structure of every cell, as long as it is considered to be a cell. So inside the cell, okay, let's say we have the cell. Inside the cell, we are going to have the nucleus. Then inside the nucleus, we are going to have structures, thread-like structures, which we call the chromosomes. Inside the chromosomes, we are going to have the basic unit of inheritance, which is the genes. Then inside the genes, we have the DNA. The DNA, these are proteins that carries the genetic information. So the cell summarizes the life of a living organism. Now, if we look at these three cells, the cell A, which is also specialized, we can see that this one is coming from the nervous system. Now, the nervous system, it is the system that deals with coordination. Now, coordination is just the process by which all the parts of a living organism, such as an animal, works together. So we want the brain. We know that the brain is the master. It controls the other parts of the body. But even if the other parts of the body must be controlled by the brain, whatever that they do, they have to make sure that it is in accordance with life. So the whole nervous system is about coordination, and it helps us to respond to the environment. Why do we need response? There are so many reasons why we need response: to protect ourselves from danger, and also to maybe respond by moving toward a certain stimulus. Now, if we also look at this nervous system, the nervous system consists of the central nervous system. Under the central nervous system, we have the brain, then and also the spinal cord. So the brain and the spinal cord collectively forms the central nervous system. Then the other system that is also part of the nervous system is peripheral nervous system. Now the peripheral nervous system, it is the one that deals with the nerves. We'll say maybe nerve fiber. So the nerve fibers, these are like wires where the nerve impulses or the electrical impulses passes as they move from one point to another point. Now if you look at the types of the nerves, there are nerves that connects to the brain, and these are known as the cranial nerves. Then we also have those that connects to the spinal cord, and those are known as spinal nerves. So those are the two types of the nerves, but in general, a nerve is just like a wire where the electrical impulses passes through. Now, for the first question, which is question A1, identify the cells A. A is the neuron, but to specify, looking at the structure, this is a motor neuron. So you have to look at how can you know that this is a motor neuron? You have to look at the location of the cell body. So whenever the cell body is terminally located, that a particular neuron is a motor neuron, because for a sensory one, the cell body is located along the axon like this. So whenever you see this one, that is for the structure that we are calling as a sensory. Now the motor neuron, we can see this is the cell body. Then we have the dendrite and the dendron at the edges. Now let's move on to cell B. For cell B, this is a root hair cell. Now root hair cell, so we are saying this is a root hair cell. How did we know that this is a root hair cell? Because of the elongated outgrowth. So what do we mean by, so this structure here, this is what should do assist you in determining the cell, the root hair cell, the one that we are looking at here. Now, if you look at this root hair cell, it has to do with transportation of materials in a plant. And the system that is responsible for the transportation of materials within a plant is a vesicular system. Now, vesicular system has what we call vesicular bundle. And inside the vesicular bundle, there is the xylem and the phloem. In between the xylem and the phloem, we have the cambium. So the cambium, apart from working in the secondary growth, the cambium also it separates the xylem from the phloem, and or phloem from the xylem. So it is like in between the two. Now the xylem is a vessel. So if it is a vessel, there should be some materials that passes through a xylem. The materials that passes through the xylem are materials like salt, water, including mineral ions. Now, from where these materials that I've mentioned, they are transported from the soil up to the leaves. Why to the leaves? Because that is where the process of photosynthesis is taking place. So we need these materials during the formation of glucose and the other end products that are produced by the photosynthesis process. Now, how do materials move from the soil into the roots, then from the roots into the stem? We know that it's via xylem, but how do those materials, how do they diffuse? How do they move from the soil into the plant? Is where now the root hair cell comes in. So this cell has to do with the absorption. So it is there to absorb. To absorb is like to pull. So it is there to pull the salt, water and mineral salts from the soil into the xylem of the root, then up to the leaves. So that is our structure B, which is the root hair cell. Then the other function for root hair cell, it is also about to anchor the plant. So to anchor, why do we need that? We need the plant to stand firmly, so that even if it encountered the pressure of the wind during the, let's say in wind days, it has to outstand the pressure that comes with that. So it also does such a role. Then if we go to cell C, because of these parts are known as the cilia. So if this is the cilia, then the cell is known as ciliated cell. So you have to also know that. So we have ciliated cell. Now the ciliated cell, these are found in the respiratory tract and also in fallopian tube. So if you look at the structure of the female reproductive system, there is what we call the fallopian tube, and under the fallopian tube is where the process of fertilization mostly occurs. Now for the female sex cell, which is the ovum, is different from the male sex cell, which is the sperm. The sperm has a tail that it can use to move from one position to another. But with an ovum, the case is different. For an ovum, it can't move on its own. So there should be something that should help to move this ovum. So whenever this ovum is ejected out of the ovary by the ovulation process into the oviduct here, then there are these cilia. So these cilia, they are like they are able to push. They are pushing this until it goes into the uterus. So that is the other function of this. So it has to do with the fallopian tube, which is the female reproductive organ, and there it is there to help to move an ovum. Then if you look at the respiratory tract, it has to do with the sweeping out of dust from mucus, or we can summarize by saying it helps to clean the air before reaching the lungs, because we have to make sure that by the time we are receiving the air into the lungs, the air must be cleaned. Then Roman number 2, state the part of the living organism in which the specialized cells B and C are normally found. So B is root hair cell. Then where can we find the root hair cell? These cells are found on the tips of roots. So root tips. Then what of the ciliated cell? We are saying respiratory tract or fallopian tube. Then for question B, the last one, explain the function of each of the cells in figure 1. So cell A, we said motor neuron. So motor neuron, the function we can say to conduct electrical impulses. Impulses from where? From the central nervous system, which is the spinal cord or the brain, to the effectors. The effectors can be muscles or glands, as long as the effector is an organ that can be used by a living organism to respond. Because for muscles, we know that if, for example, I want to lift something, so for me to apply that force so that I'm able to lift that, I need to, there should be a part that should supply me with the force to lift that. So the muscles are responsible even for the movement. So the motor neuron, remember, comes from the central nervous system. After the interpretation, then into the effector, then the response is done. But with the sensory neuron, the case is different. It's opposite. For sensory neuron, the electrical impulses are moved from the sensor organs, which is the skin, toward the central nervous system. Now for cell B, we know that cell B is ciliated cell, root hair cell. Then the function of root hair cell to absorb salt, water and mineral ions. From the soil, or if you want, we can also say to anchor the plant so that it is able to have the strength. Then for C, if we consider that one in terms of respiratory tract, we can say to sweep out. To sweep out dust particles from the mucus or the air in the mucus. If we consider this one as the fallopian tube, then we can say to help the ovum to move. Okay, so this is what I can share with you guys for this question, and if this question is helpful, give it a thumbs up, and also comment, because at least you give us more energy to make more of this. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.